This is another in the First Read series where I read a poem by a poet I don't know or know very little about, just for the sheer joy of it. This time I'm looking at a poem from Word for Word, a long-running poetry magazine, definitely worth checking it out. Andrea Astolfi. This one is Poesia Giapponese, which is Japanese poetry, number 1. I'm not going to look at number 1. I do this kind of randomly. I just pulled the page up here so we can see it. I'm going to look at number 2. I'm not for any specific reason. It's just compositionally. I just looked at it. Struck me. I don't look at these poems really very much before I go to it. And this one you might look at it if you're not used to this kind of asemic writing. Asemic, that is. Asemic writing is or visual poetry. I'm taking this as a small subset of visual poetry called asemic writing. That's what it seems similar to me. I ran across this first with the Australian writer Tim Gaze, I don't know, 20 years ago. And it's kind of popped up off and on over the years with different writers in the poetry world. There's a lot of this happening. So if you're interested in it, you can look it up. It is very popular in Italian writing, specifically, which is, I'm assuming, what's happening here. So asemic poetry, and this, I think, is a good example of it. Is basically a visual poem that seems like it could be made up of language, but isn't. Like, there's no specific Italian words here. No words specifically here. In some ways, it looks like a Franz Klein painting where you're focusing on the brushwork, like you see in a Japanese or like a Chinese painting, the quality of the brushwork here. Here, it looks like we've zoomed in on handwritten language. We're not sure it's actually language itself. It's almost the pre-verbal before language, what comes before it all tries to create some kind of, logical 21st century meaning as we know of it. Language that's been turned corporate in the modern world, and it's full of all that stuff. This feels like it's right before that. Like you can see things you think might be letters here. I mean, and it's hard to know even what, alphabet we're using. But, the thing at the bottom, it looks like it could be an A with a little squiggle through it, maybe T, something at the top, but maybe not. Maybe this is, a different alphabet altogether, and we're kind of misreading it this way by trying to read something into it. When I look at asemic pieces, I try just to have the experience of it, of the piece, and see if it strikes me as a valuable experience. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's the kind of sense in which you look at a abstract painting and you try to let it wash over you and have that experience, and some of them work well and some of them don't. This one, I feel like it works pretty well. I mean, the composition, kind of have the sides with a heavy composition. The center is a little bit lighter. It does look language-like at the same time, is not language. The shape, I think, reminds me of the scrolls you could have for like the Japanese or Chinese paintings, and these long scrolls that have language running down them. But here it's like you look for meaning and you're not really finding meaning as much as just the experience, right? Watching what a person has done on this with language. It's like I said, pre-verbal experience. We're almost like, we're looking at action painting, and in that kind of, we see what the writer has done with it. So interesting piece. I kind of think you could read these across each other. And there's quite a number in these series. They're very similar in what they're doing. I'm not going to go into each of them. I think when you look at these, you find one that strikes you and kind of go with it and delve into that and suspend what you think poetry should be. Like, I mean, you don't have to go into all those arguments about is this a painting? Is this a poem? All that kind of stuff. You can just suspend it and look at it as a poem and try to read it as you would a poem. So anyway, interesting little piece. I enjoy it. Definitely will have to get to know more of this writer's work.